The lesson 8 was to own your own story. I remember, I think it was in early 2000s or late 90s. I can't remember exactly when, but one of Oprah's relatives was going to sell Oprah's story. And so Oprah tells this story that, she was so upset. She was crying and she was afraid that what's going to happen, everybody's going to find out what happened to her, and, people are going to talk about her. And then she said, asked her, like, you have such a huge platform. Why aren't you sharing your own story? Why are you allowing other people to share your story? Why are you allowing other people to tell your story in their words instead of you telling your story in your words? And so I knew that, but I never owned my story until last year. And so last year I was actually angry for 20 years because when I said no, people didn't like it, and that was okay. That's normal for people not to like when you say no. You've been saying yes for so long, and then all of a sudden you say no, and people don't like it. It's hard when you draw boundaries, and because you've never drawn boundaries, all of a sudden you're drawing boundaries and you're just kind of like really strict with your boundaries, and they're like, we were like all over this place, and what the hell happened? Like, now you've changed. And you have changed. You haven't really changed as a human being. You've changed in a way that you are not willing to betray yourself. So, and people talked about people that I trusted, people that I cared about, people that I loved, said some horrible things about me, and they said some horrible things about my little kids, and they said such unkind things about me, some lies about me, and I was so hurt. I was very hurt. And so I didn't know how, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, go to people's homes, like tell everybody, like, oh, that's a lie, And so I was so resentful, so angry. I kept everything within me, and I would talk about me. I talk about things, and I did not talk about those things for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And so recently I started talking about it because it was really weighing me down. I was so upset, and I was always like very sad, and I was angry. Like, why do I think I don't have the right to my own story and own life? And so the last year I actually shared and owned my own story, and it was amazing. It took so much weight off my shoulders. I became such a lighter person, and I am not afraid. I told the truth. I'm not the kindest. I'm not the most generous person. I was, because I thought I had to be nice. I was sometimes very resentful and very angry. And I thought and then once I shared my own story and I looked at other people who think they're so nice, I was like, oh my gosh, those people were some of the meanest and unkind people. And why do we even think that they were nice? They were not nice at all. And they allowed other people to walk all over them, like out in the open. And then they went behind the scenes and they're just like, ripping apart their own children, and they were so unkind to their own children, their own families, their own husband, and it was horrible. And so that's the other lesson I learned from you, that the 8th lesson, that you need to own your own story and you need to be true to yourself. And so thank you, Oprah. And it actually truly changed my life. Last year was an amazing year. All the people don't like me. They're unkind to me. They're angry at me. But it's okay. It's okay. I had to own my own story. They were at one time they didn't have to tell my story, but they chose to tell my story, and now I decided to tell my story. So they need to take responsibility for their actions, instead of making my actions according to their needs and their desires. So yeah, that was the owning my own story was amazing. It changed my life. And thank you, Oprah, and I love you. Happy birthday.